Welcome into Courtside Seats with Kroeger, a Charlotte Hornets podcast. Here he is, Chris Kroeger.
All right, it's episode 30 of Courtside Seats, our Hornets podcast, and we're coming to you live from a random hotel room in Washington, D.C. And look who's here. It's ShahAhmadi. Ashley, what's going on?
Hey, Chris. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so now you're officially part of the team now because you made the podcast, okay? That's how
my gosh, that's how I'm inducted.
Oh, yeah, that's how we mark,
official club.
Yeah, so it's good to have you, and gosh, it's been probably a pretty wild few months, but I think the last couple weeks in particular where you go from just hosting our pregame broadcast on TV at home only, and now all of a sudden you're traveling with us and you're doing the rest of the schedule. Not only you're doing pre for home games, now you're doing it for away games, and you got to do sideline reporting, so I'm sure it's been pretty wild.
Yes, honestly, the past 6 months since I started at Fox Sports South has been just the most incredible whirlwind, like you said. I mean, my initial job was digital reporting for Fox Sports South, and covered just a bunch of teams that we air on our network. But about a couple months in, maybe like August or so, that's when they approached me about needing a Hornets Live pregame host. And basketball is my sport. I've played it ever since I was little. My brothers played it, and so it's literally been a dream of mine forever to cover an NBA team. So that was a no-brainer, of course. Yes, absolutely. And then once I got here to Charlotte, just a couple months in, Stephanie Reddy announced that she had a different opportunity, and so the sideline reporting gig opened up, and they asked if I wanted to kind of step into that role and extend my role as the host, and here I am, like you said.
You never said, there was never a moment where you're like, no, I'm going to turn that down, right? It was always,
never.
I'm going to say yes to that.
I mean, I wanted to do that since I was just a little kid, cover an NBA team. Just been a dream of mine, so there was no doubt in my mind. Of course, it was like, okay, let me figure out this whole traveling thing, because it went from, like you said, just traveling to Charlotte, hosting the home games, to you basically need to pack up your life for 3 months and hit the road. And so, of course, there was a little bit of stress, as in how am I going to do that, and because I don't really have a permanent place in Charlotte, but we got it all worked out, and here I am in DC with you.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think, like, for me, I'm the rookie too, so we're kind of the same like that. And then, we got a new coaching staff in here, we got a new front office, so a lot of the players are the same, but it's an interesting time because it's just one of those years, and it's maybe fittingly so, we're in our 30th anniversary, and all of a sudden we've kind of turned over a new page, and it feels like a bit of a new era of Hornets basketball. So I feel like we're getting in at a good time. It's a fun time. I do too. Everyone's
kind of starting fresh a little bit. Of course, we have our veteran broadcasters, veteran players, everything like that. But for us, Chris, it's been a good start.
Well, we've got a band together here. So you guys aired this on the pregame show. This is probably 3 weeks ago or so. We were in Minneapolis in early December. And full disclosure, I go out to dinner with Sam Purley of Hornets.com. And I come back. It's probably, 8 o'clock at night, and I get to the lobby, and in the hotel bar, there's Dell, there's Eric, there's Stephanie, some of your Fox Sports coworkers, and they said I didn't even see him at first. I'm walking to the elevator, and I see Dell, and Dell screams my name, and I just kind of do the old hand wave, and you're like, I'm going, I'm tired, I'm going to bed, we got a game tomorrow night. And they're like, they waved me over. Oh, come on over. So I come over, and it's not that I didn't want to talk to them. I was just like, I didn't know they were there, all that stuff, right? So then we start talking, and out of nowhere, your TV producer says, hey, Chris, what room number are you? And I said, room number, whatever. And he said, oh, okay. Because I feel like I normally have the room beside you when we stay on the road, and I'm in room X, Y, and Z right now. And
planted the seed.
Yeah, I didn't think much of it, right? And then, we talked for 20 minutes or so. I said, all right, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. It's 8:30. I'm an old man. I'm going to bed. And so I go up to my room. The next day, we go to check out to go get on the bus to go to the arena, which is right across the street, by the way. We could have just walked. But we go to check out, and the desk clerk says, all right, you're all set, except you have a room charge at the bar for, I think it was $400.
Wow.
And I thought, come again? My jaw was on the floor, right?
Did you even connect
No, not yes. And then I look around, and all of a sudden, there's your producer, Scott Snyder, filming, of course, because that's what any TV producer does. He's always got it on camera. And then Dale Curry just laughing as he walks up from behind. And I just said, you guys are the worst. And I was prepared to pay. I mean, you're the rookie. I wouldn't have been happy about paying that.
So you didn't even think twice of, hey, someone's playing a
well, I did. Once they did that, but then Dell said, no, stop it. You're not going to pay. I'm paying this.
Oh,
and they got a good laugh.
take
And
it like a champ.
Yeah, and of course you guys aired it on the pregame show. So I know for a fact, and I don't know if they're listening right now, but they're gunning for you. You're next. And so you got to keep your head on a swivel. And I think we need to get them back is what we need to do.
I mean, I want them to listen, but I hope they don't listen to this episode so we can kind of plot and figure out how to get them back, because they can't get us both and then just be off the hook.
No, and I don't know if they're expecting there's not going to be any like punchback on this, but there's got to be repercussions from that. Like and I think we need to get. I can't. I've got ideas. Okay, we'll share them off the air, but I've got ideas that I think it could really.
We do, because I don't think they're expecting it, and especially if we wait a little bit, because that time has passed.
Yeah, we're going to let the dust settle a little bit.
Yep, they're not going to expect it at all, and then we'll be on the road here in January at some point and get them.
All right, well, let's talk about just doing the job so far. So I think for me, I've been fortunate enough to be around the team over the last few years. Now being around them every day is even better than that, but I've always had an admiration for how hard these guys work, how talented they are, the grind that the NBA schedule is. But for you, what's it been like to kind of, I'm sure you had expectations of, okay, this is what an NBA team is like, but now that you're around it more and more every day, what's it actually like?
It's what you expect, but not what you expect. I mean, the NBA season is such a grind, and especially when you do back-to-backs. And, you and I were talking last night, just right after the game last night, we went straight to the airport, went on, came here to DC, didn't get to our hotel till probably 1 a.m. or something. And we were just talking about how that's, not your normal travel schedule, but that's the grind of the NBA. And you don't have that many back-to-backs, and so sometimes you do get a nice little day in between rest, but it's not really rest, because here we are prepping for the next game. So you really, just as the players practice the next day, scout the next team that they're playing, I feel like on the broadcast side we kind of do that too. And yeah, we're not on the big stage actually playing the game, but we're trying to present them in the best way possible and get our viewers the facts that they need and the stats that they need and all that. So it's kind of what I expected in that sense, but it is a grind. It really is.
Well, it is amazing, because you're right. It does. Everything's on the spectrum of, okay, what do we do? What's our job? And so our job is to broadcast the games to our fans. But think about it, when you use that perspective of how tired we can be sometimes, or how disorienting it is.
Right.
And I think for me, that's more what it's been. It's just disorienting sometimes to go from one city to the next. And like you said, within a matter of hours, you're in another city, in another hotel room, and you're like, hold on, 2 hours ago I was in an arena watching us play. You know what I mean? No, normal people don't travel that way.
Right.
So it's why we're allowed to do what we do, because the travel is so streamlined and efficient, but it's also really disorienting because it's just not normal, right? You got to go to the airport 2 hours before, you got to go through security, you got to wait for your plane, then maybe there's a delay. We actually fly, I think, at a little faster rate of speed. So, we got to D.C. in, 30 minutes last night? It was 35 minutes?
40 minutes, definitely.
You're not flying that fast commercial.
No, I know. And the Hornets organization, whoever plans the travel, is awesome, because everything's always so
perfect,
ready, prepared. That's something that, like you said, I've never experienced. I've never experienced travel like this before, and just everything kind of being, they're so good at everything being ready for you.
But think about that as a player. So here we are as broadcasters, and even we feel, and again, I don't think tired. There are times we feel tired when you have stretches, but more than anything, it's just disorienting. But imagine being a player, and now you've got to get your mind right, and you've got to quickly, it felt so great to win last night. That fourth quarter was great on Friday night to knock off Brooklyn and get some revenge. But now you got to quickly move on and play a Washington team we haven't seen yet. So now you got to scout them, all that sort of stuff. And then your body's aching, you're sore, you played last night, you traveled, you probably got decent rest, but it's not the same as it would be if you're sleeping at home, right? So that's hard to think about those guys.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine. We take it hard when they lose. So if themselves, and then they have to just kind of, we can't think about that game. We have to just think about the next one. So I can't even imagine what it's like for them. And also I can't even imagine when we travel to a different time zone, because luckily
that's coming, by the way.
That is coming all of January pretty much. But Chris, I mean, we've luckily stayed in this time zone, Eastern,
yeah.
But yeah, that's going to kind of mess with our heads a little bit.
And that's the other thing. It was funny, Matt Carroll on the plane last night. Matt normally sits right in front of me, and Matt turns to me and he said, "It's amazing how much different it feels after a win, right?" And it's so true. You get on that plane after winning, and everybody wants to talk. Everybody's happy. Everybody's feeling good. And then, like Wednesday night was gut-wrenching in double overtime. How much talking was going on the plane Wednesday night?
Maybe 1 to 2 words, and that was, when are we going to get there?
Yeah. Everybody's, I'm quiet. Nobody's talking on the bus to the airport. It's just, let's get home. Let's get on to the next one. And that's amazing, too. The best advice I got from Steve Martin, he said, these losses are going to hurt, and they should hurt. But the best thing you can do is start working on your next game, just like the players and the coaches do. And that's not coach speak. They always say, well, we just got to move on to the next one. You have to, because if you linger on a game like that in this league where there's 82 games, you're going to make yourself sick. And I've already noticed that as a broadcaster, where Wednesday night was really tough. I had to immediately start thinking about, all right, how can the Hornets get some revenge Friday against Brooklyn? Yeah,
and in our pregame show, we always touch on the game before, but it's just a very short part of the segment, and then we move on to the next thing. So kind of hope the players have that same mentality as they get ready for the next game. But luckily, we are coming on this one after a win last night, a really good one at that.
All right, so you got your start. You're from, what, Atlanta?
Yes, pretty much. I grew up there in Atlanta, Georgia, or just outside of it, in Kennesaw, Georgia, and went to...
Kennesaw State, the same place?
Kennesaw State it was about 5 minutes from my house.
Okay.
My high school was right around there, and then I went to the University of Georgia, studied broadcast journalism. Go Dogs. Excited to watch them play Texas in their bowl game. Yeah, so then after I graduated from Georgia, my very first job, I took this local news route as a weekend sports anchor in Meridian, Mississippi. And
where the heck is Meridian, Mississippi?
You cross the Alabama-Mississippi line about 20 miles in, and there it is.
Okay.
And
what's the nearest city? Like big city, or like...
So Tuscaloosa is 90 miles from it, and then Jackson, Mississippi is 90 miles from it. So it is literally in the middle of Jackson and Tuscaloosa.
So what would you cover? You were covering a lot of like SEC football then?
Yes. I mean, it was so awesome because we were so close to Alabama, so we had a bunch of Alabama fans. So I'd cover Alabama football, but then of course Mississippi, such a great place for football. They have Ole Miss and Mississippi State. It's just such a hub for college football and high school football at that. And so it was such a good start. I mean, when I say I started in Mississippi, people kind of give me this look like, oh, that's interesting. And
there's no NBA team in Mississippi.
Right. So we covered the Pelicans.
Right.
That was kind of our closest. Same with no NFL teams. So we covered the Saints. And then oddly enough, no MLB teams. So there was a bunch of Braves fans.
Yeah.
So it was there was just a vast amount of teams that we got to cover, which was really great. And it was just such a great start for me. Just doing that grind of local news, completely different type of job in a sense than what we do now. It's just, there I carried a camera for hours at a college football game, and then I'd have to, right after the game, go shoot interviews, and then I'd have to shoot my own stand-up, and it was just I respect and appreciate where I am so much more because of how I started.
Well, I think it's funny, and we're both really young. I think I'm the youngest play-by-play guy in the NBA, which is crazy.
That's awesome. You should pat yourself on the back for that.
I mean, yes and no, but like I don't know. I've never viewed myself. So this is the advice, because you get people, I'm sure, young kids asking you in college, "Hey, I want to do what you do. How do you get there?"
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the advice I always say is, when I was in school, I didn't act like I was in school. I acted like I was a professional already, or I tried to. Right? I know I made mistakes.
Good technique. Yep.
So when you prepare that way, when you get out, it's not foreign to you. You just have a way about you, I think, that, your reputation precedes you, which is good. And then the other thing is, too, you got to be willing to do everything. I think so many kids come out and they say, oh, I want to be on air, I want to be a play-by-play broadcaster. And you're just so set on, okay, well, I'm only going to take jobs that pertain to that. Well, you know what would actually help your job? If you do other stuff. Because if you learn all the other things that go into making an entire broadcast, it's going to make your job easier once you actually get to where you want to be.
I can't even tell you, even after 4 years in Mississippi, a lot of my friends still didn't understand what I did. They thought I just put on some makeup, put on a
just
dress,
get on the air.
Got on there, read the teleprompter. And I try to explain, no, actually I was just in crunch time trying to write all my scripts, and then I had to edit all my video for the show that you're seeing. And then before that I was shooting all my video. And so it was just, a 12-hour day, and I make this 2 minutes, 30 seconds in the sportscast, So, like you said, you just have to learn how to do everything. And it just makes you so versatile. And even if your end goal, maybe you're not editing as much or shooting as much, you still know how to do it, so you understand it when it comes in the show.
Yeah, and I think the thing that people also lose track of is the on-air part. That's the payoff. Like, that's the dessert. That's the reward. So all the prep we do, all the hard work that goes into it. So for us, it's longer now that we're doing like an NBA broadcast. We're on the air for 2 to 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Those 2 to 3 hours should be some of the best parts of our day, and they often are. That's the fun part, because you did all the work leading up to it.
Right. You were prepping for 3 hours before that, trying to get ready for it.
Yeah.
And then that's your dessert. Like you said, I like that analogy.
I'm a food. I'm like a fat kid by trade. I'm like a fat kid at heart. So you did local news. Did you think you wanted to continue to be a sports anchor and like climb the ladder as a sports anchor
in local news?
Well, just anywhere. Like maybe even jumping like to the network side. Did you think that kind of world is something you wanted to do, or did you always have an idea of, I want to get more into sports broadcasting in terms of like being on a game broadcast, or being associated with a team, or being a reporter for a team? Because there's so many of those now where there are reporters who are embedded with the team, and we've got our whole digital team at Hornets.com with like Sam Purley and what Aaron Pitzenberger and Matt Rachinsky do. Did you think you wanted to do that, or did you not really have your mind made up on what you wanted to be?
I definitely wanted to kind of get out of the local news market and jump to what we're doing now and cover a team. And even if it was because what Aaron and Sam do, I did that for Fox Sports as a whole when I started. I did digital reporting. I covered all these teams just digitally. And it was just such a great experience to start. I mean, as soon as I got the job, basically a month later, I came right here to DC, covered the MLB All-Star Game for the Braves. They had a great season. And then I got to cover Chipper Jones getting inducted in Cooperstown, which was just incredible because he's someone I watched growing up all back in Atlanta. But, this was definitely the end goal. I kind of tell my story as when I was 11 years old, I went to this Atlanta Hawks game just because I lived in Atlanta. And I saw some sideline reporters and just fell in love with it. And I just remember turning to my mom and saying, how cool would that job be? I mean, that would just be incredible to cover a team, to be able to, grow with them and learn with them. And so that was kind of always the end goal, but I knew early on that, I wasn't going to graduate high school, graduate college, and just get a job doing that. Mm-hmm. So I always knew. I even thought to myself, if I have to take the news route to get into sports, because sports jobs are just so limited right when you get out of college. There's plenty of, news reporter jobs, but not so much sports reporting. And so I did a couple internships as a news reporter just so I'd have that under my belt as well. And kind of quickly found out that, news really wasn't for me.
Why is that?
It's very hard. It's very difficult. I mean, you know how it is. Murders, drownings.
Oh, the stories were just too heavy for you. The stories
were just so, because something terrible like that would happen and you'd have to go talk to the family. I didn't want to talk to the family. They didn't want to talk to me. So I kind of thought maybe I don't have that, whatever you want to call it, that drive to do news reporting. And so kind of after that one summer where that happened, I was like, okay, I can get a sports job. I can do that. I'll start in a small market, kind of work my way up. And that's what happened with Meridian. So, you have to be willing to do a lot, but also know what you want to do. Mm-hmm. You don't always have to go, like I said, I thought I had to go into this news route to maybe eventually get to sports, but if you're patient and you just kind of keep trying and be open to a lot of things, because if I back in college said that I would live in Meridian, Mississippi for 2 years when I graduated, I would have been like, you're crazy, what are you talking about? But that was just honestly such a great first job for me, and my sports director there had been there for 30 years, so he taught me so much, and it was just a great way to start this career. And I can't even believe how much has happened in the last 6 months to
Life
get to
moves
where
fast.
I am.
No, life moves fast.
Yeah.
So when you get to Fox, did you think, okay, there are opportunities here because they own so many properties, especially like regionally with the Braves, with their TV rights and the Hornets and the Hurricanes and all the things. Did you think, okay, eventually I could jump to that? Or did you always think, oh, I don't know, I'd just do the reporting thing?
Honestly, I was so excited to work for such a great company because when I got there, everyone has just been so friendly, so helpful. It's just such a great place to grow. So I was very excited about that. Yeah, it was nice to know that, okay, Fox Sports South covers the Hornets and the Grizzlies and the Hawks. And then, like you said, Hurricanes and Predators. And so that was kind of a plus for it because I was like, if they ever needed a niche, but I never thought that, especially this fast, that an opportunity like that would present itself and I would be able to do it. So
Was the NBA always your favorite sport growing up?
Yes, played basketball all growing up. I have 2 brothers. They're both like 6'5", so they both play basketball. And I remember when I was really young, maybe like 6 or 7 or something. I have a older brother who's 2 years older than me. We've always been really close. And he was like, okay, Ashley, you can either cheer on the sidelines for my games, or you can be on the court playing. And I was like, well, I want to be on the court playing. What are you talking about? And so that sort of started that. We started with co-ed teams when we were like 6 years old or 8 years old. And then kind of took off from there. I played all in middle school and high school. I played for the club team in Georgia, which was pretty competitive, pretty fun. And then I kind of switched to the broadcast route and started covering the Georgia women's team, Georgia football, and stuff
Georgia's
like that.
got a great women's team.
They do.
Andy Landers is the coach. Right? Is he still there or did he retire?
No, it's actually, her name is Joni Taylor now.
Okay.
It's Crenshaw. And oddly enough, she's from Meridian, Mississippi.
What do you know?
So when I was in
Small
Meridian,
world.
I got to go to Georgia, do a whole piece on her because here's this Meridian former basketball player that's now coach of an SEC team.
I did some, when I was at IMG, I did for I think 2 or 3 years, I called some of the SEC women's basketball tournament. I'd go to Duluth, Georgia.
Oh, awesome.
Because that's where it was most of the
Yeah.
time. It moves around a little bit more now. And you gain an appreciation for like how high a level that basketball is. And Georgia's a great women's program. Mississippi State is a great women's program. LSU's always strong. Tennessee, obviously they're not quite what they were, but they're still really good. And those women are good. Like,
oh my gosh.
They are really good.
They are really good. I had the privilege of covering Mississippi State when they went to the national championship game twice. Obviously, major heartbreaks both times, but covering that team was just incredible. And I mean, even covering football for them when, Dak Prescott was at Mississippi State, Chad Kelly was at Ole Miss. They were both number 1 at one time in the season. And when I just think back at all that stuff I got to cover, I just can't even believe it. And now here I am. It just makes me appreciate all of it.
How nervous were you the first time you took the air? Even for, I guess it would have been a regular season game. Did you do a preseason game?
I did not. I came and watched.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because they didn't have like a regular preseason show, I don't think.
Yeah, so you did, your first game would have been the season opener, 30th anniversary season.
October 17th.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Yep.
All
and
that stuff.
It was an hour show as opposed to 30 minutes. And, my bosses and everything always joke, my producer always jokes, we've just kept throwing you in the fire. And that's really what I feel like it's been, because the very first show was an hour. I had to host this pregame show. Chris, I was more nervous than I could possibly tell you. And Stephanie Reddy said an awesome thing before, her last show with us. She said it's okay to be nervous. And I felt like she was kind of directing that towards me because I was incredibly nervous, and I still get nervous. I mean, it's not as much because you kind of get in a rhythm and you know how things go, but at first I had no idea how any of it worked. I'd watched previous shows, but obviously each year is a little bit different, so very nervous, but I think it went okay for my first show.
Do you get nervous or do you have nerves? Because I think those are two different things.
I think so too. I think I do get nervous just because I don't want to mess up and I want to make sure I feel prepared and I'm ready for it, but the nerves is more of the excitement part, which that just happens because I'm just excited that I'm doing it.
My first broadcast was a preseason game. It was in Chapel Hill.
Gosh.
And so that was another, I think that added to the, and if you talk to a lot of people who work for us, for the team, before the game. And I was like, and I'm never this way. I'm always, I mean, I think you've known this about me just in a short time. Like, I'm pretty calm and reserved and just kind of laid back. Yeah. But I was so nervous. I was like jittery, and I couldn't find coffee. And I drank a lot of coffee. And it's just like my pregame routine. I'm like, I need coffee. There's no coffee in the building, which was beyond me. I'm like, how is there no coffee in this arena right now?
And you drink it black, too.
I do, yeah. You might as well just give me an IV drip of coffee. So I'm like freaking out. I'm like, it's 30 minutes before the game. I need coffee. Where's the coffee? And then we're in a different arena, you know? So there's just this, you don't have this comfort level of, you know, even I've never done play-by-play for the team before, but at least when I was at home, I've done broadcasts from home, from our arena, right? So like, you know where everything is.
It's a whole new stage.
Yeah, so it was just so different, and I was so nervous. And you know, I remembered some of the advice that Steve had given me, which was, and this is simple, but just have fun and tell people what you see. And if you do those things, you can't mess it up. Yeah. And as soon as I opened my mouth for the first time, it literally all went away.
What were the first words? Do you remember?
My first words were, it's Chris Kroeger, for the first time, welcoming you into Hornets basketball, which felt really cool to say.
That is really cool to say.
And then once I said it, I think it was like, all right, there's no going back now, right?
That's
and
so, remember forever.
Yeah. So I see, I get nerves. I don't get nervous anymore.
Okay.
I get nerves of excitement every game because, like we were talking about, you do all the prep. Mm-hmm. You start to feel like you've got a real sense of the storylines and the matchups and all that. And so you're excited to see the ball go in the air. Just like the coaches, right? You feel like you got a great game plan. This is what's going to put us in a position to win. If we execute this, we're winning tonight. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that as a broadcaster, too. Here's what's going into this game. I'm confident of it. I've done all my prep. Let's go execute, and let's go have a great broadcast. So I get nerves. I don't really get nervous.
You don't get nervous anymore just after that first one?
No. And I hardly ever get nervous in my broadcasting career. I probably could count on, awesome. One hand. But that's where I think, that to me, I think that was my, like, rightfully so, my mind was telling me, this is a really big deal. It's okay. It's to your point. It's okay to be nervous right now.
Right. It is a really big deal, and it is okay to be nervous. You just how you handle it.
I would wonder for you, what's the most challenging aspect of your job? Like, is it having to quarterback all these different people in and out? Is it the sideline reporting? Maybe they're all difficult. They're all challenging in different ways. But what's been the hardest thing maybe for you to try to like, all right, I know I got to work hardest at this with my job?
Yeah. I think, when Stephanie was here and I was hosting the pregame show, Stephanie's such a pro and such a veteran that I would set her up. She could talk for 5 minutes about one topic. I mean, she can just keep going, not a problem. So it was kind of that sense of comfort in that way. And, now we have Gerald Henderson on the desk with me for hosting the pregame show. And he's been great. I mean, he's only done 2 games, and I feel like he's been doing it forever. Mm-hmm. He did a little bit of college basketball and everything like that, but he's just been really great. But it's, our producer says it's kind of like a rookie teaching a rookie. And it really is true. Especially that first game we did, because he was kind of nervous and everything, and so if he would stop short, I'd have to kind of keep him going, and that was just a lot different than when Stephanie was there. And like I said, he's gotten so much better just in 2 games, and so I know it's only going to keep getting better from there. But I think at first that was kind of the challenge, and now definitely the fact that when Stephanie was here and she was doing sideline, I kind of had the game to just focus on the game, know what I wanted to say in the post-game show. I had a lot of time to prepare it, 4 quarters too. But now I don't have that anymore. Now it's like as soon as we get off the air for the pregame show, I go directly down there, get ready for my first hit, get ready for halftime, get ready for, the interviews and whatnot. And then the hardest part is if we win, we do a walk-off interview with one of the players. And I have probably 30 to 45 seconds to just book it up the stairs or book it to wherever our set is and get on and get ready to host. And it'd be different if I wasn't the host because they could kind of stall and wait for whoever was, but they really can't start unless I get there. And so I have to just make sure I get there really fast and kind of get myself ready in a matter of 30 seconds.
What I've noticed is, too, you can't really take, because of what you're talking about, you can't really take a moment off. So
exactly.
Even though you want to sometimes, you've got to pay attention to everything, the storylines, what are the trends in the game. You got to make notes all the time because if you don't, you'll lose track of it. and you won't even be able. You'll think, oh, I'll remember that in an hour or so. No, you won't.
No.
And so I do the same thing in between quarter breaks. I've got to try to look at the box score really quick and digest. All right, what just happened in that quarter, and then what just happened in the first half, and then in the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter.
As you're still calling the game.
Yeah,
right?
because if you don't, then you'll look back and you'll think, all right, generally you know what happened, but I think you lose track of the individual things and you don't see the whole story for what it is. But it's very easy to think, man, this game's going so quick. Let me just take 60 seconds here and just, zone out for a second. But you can't do that.
You really can't.
You gotta constantly be locked in. So for like 3 hours before the game, all the way to the end of it, and post game, you just gotta you're tuned into everything.
You literally said it perfectly. 30 minutes before when it starts till 30 minutes after the game when it ends, it's just like constant concentration. And I think that is the hardest part because you really can't slip up. You always have to be really focused the entire time.
All right, where are you looking forward to going most? We've still got a lot of road games left to be played, so where are you looking forward to most?
Well, I know we have a huge West Coast trip coming up. I think we leave next Friday. I'm really excited about that because, never been to Portland.
Portland's their motto of Portland is keep Portland weird.
Okay.
So I'm telling that's what you're walking into with Portland. It's a cool city.
I think we have a day off there, so that'll be really fun to explore. And then of course, LA, just because seeing the Lakers or Golden State, seeing the Warriors, I think that's just going to be Oracle Arena. Amazing. That's going to be a once in a lifetime thing. I was a huge Sacramento Kings fan when Mike Bibby played there back in the day. So kind of low key excited about
White Chocolate. Chris Webber,
yes,
Vlade Divac, Peja Stojakovic.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So excited about that one. And I think also Arizona.
Okay.
Never been there, never been to Phoenix.
You know what? I actually say I've been to Arizona a handful of times. Arizona reminds me, I know this sounds weird, it reminds me a lot of North Carolina.
Oh, really?
Because you can drive an hour to 2 hours in any direction. Colorado's a little bit this way too, but I think more so Arizona. You could drive an hour or 2 hours in any direction, and the geography and the weather could change drastically.
That's cool.
Now, obviously, they've got bodies of water. They don't have the ocean, but they've got mountains. They've got all sorts of, obviously, hot, arid deserts. Yeah. There's really lush green parts of the state, too. I'm a big fan of the state of Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be cool. And also, of course, Toronto, because just going to Canada, bucket list item.
You've never been across the border at all.
Never been across the border to Canada.
We make it pretty seamless. We still got to go through customs when we come back. But yeah, we go through. It's going to be really cold. Mm-hmm. It was really cold when we went in November already.
I'm ready to see snow. We go to all these places up north. We haven't seen snow yet.
Have we not? I'm trying to think of where we would have seen snow. I think in
I
Minneapolis.
Thought maybe Boston, but we didn't.
We did see a little snow flurries in Minneapolis. It was just freezing cold and icy more than anything.
Yeah.
You're right. We haven't seen snow this year.
But also on the opposite end of that, excited about Miami too, because I heard that's just a crazy place to watch basketball. Their crowd is good, especially when there's a great game. Their crowd gets into it, gets loud. Hornets won with 0.7 seconds remaining in Game 3 of the season with Kemba getting fouled, and that crowd was just booing. They were sending to the exit. So that was fun. That's one thing I've come to like. I like going on the road from the standpoint of if you win. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun to send the fan. Yeah. You kind of walk out feel like, yeah, we did that. We went in and won.
You're home.
Yeah. So as a player, I totally get it how players talk about, oh yeah, there's nothing better than silencing a crowd. You totally sense it when you're in an arena. It's yeah, this feels good.
I feel like as soon as you get off the air, you just need to drop your mic, Chris.
Yes, done. We're out of here. And what was fun in Miami, though, is, and this is typical Miami, because they've just got such a culture about that whole city, right? Mm-hmm. That Latin culture. And I forget which hotel we were in, but we played the back-to-back. We played Orlando and then Miami. And so, in the afternoon, you're trying to get a little bit of rest maybe if you can. And I'm in my hotel room, and there's a pool area one floor below me. Of course, everybody's out there drinking. It's Miami. It's 85 degrees. It's sunny. Everybody's drinking, partying. And there's just there's somebody on a keyboard playing music, club music, dance music. And then there's a guy just going at it on a saxophone, too.
Wow.
For 3 hours straight.
That's Miami, I feel like.
Yeah, and so you're man, I just want to get some rest. Can we get some peace and quiet? And there's just a guy going at a saxophone outside your window.
New York's a city that never sleeps, but Miami might be...
That's true. That's very true. Well, Ashley, it is good to see you. We got a game to get ready for, but thanks for dropping by. Welcome to the team, and start game planning what we're going to do for Dell and Eric and the whole crew, okay?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
All right, that's Courtside Seats, our Charlotte Hornets podcast. If you've missed any of our previous episodes of Courtside Seats, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. Just search Courtside Seats. You could search my name, Kroeger, Kroeger, Charlotte Hornets. You'll find us. Just click subscribe. You can review us too, rate us, and that'll push us up the charts on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on YouTube, on our Charlotte Hornets YouTube channel. All sorts of great Hornets content there, and basically available anywhere else podcasts can be found. So Stitcher, you can find us in iHeartRadio as well, Spotify, we're everywhere. We'll catch you guys back here next week, another edition of Courtside Seats.